Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. But guys, our pregame press conference here for week 4 of the WBE. The Minnesota Vikavolts are taking on the New York Marauders and coach Mr. Talent in an epic week 4 showdown. Be sure to show some love, man. Hit that like button, guys. I'm doing these team builders separately. It seems like you guys are enjoying it, so show some love there. And I gotta let you guys know before we jump into the breakdown against the Marauders, we made some transactions. Now, if you follow the WBE channel, you would have already seen the trades and transactions videos, but I made some changes to the team. So the first change I made, well, it's all kind of one change. I ended up dropping Shaymin and Alolan Persian. Yeah, crazy, right? I dropped Shaymin and Alolan Persian, and I picked up Zoroark and Venusaur. Now you might be saying, why would you drop Shaymin? That's so good. So I look at dropping Shaymin and getting Venusaur as a bit of a downgrade, right? Swapping a tier 3 for a tier 4, but then I upgraded Alolan Persian, in my opinion, to a tier 3 in Zoroark, which is a Pokemon that I've really wanted to use for a long time. So just to briefly explain my reasoning, I hadn't used Shaymin or Alolan Persian up to this point in the season, and when I was looking at this matchup, I wasn't going to bring either of them to this game either, so it really didn't make a lot of sense for me to hold on to them. I looked at some of my future matches. I really didn't see a ton of reason to need Shaymin or Alolan Persian in future matches, and there's a couple things that I really like about this move. Venusaur gives me a poison type Pokemon, which I previously didn't have, and against this matchup against Drew, I saw that I had a huge weakness on my team to Toxic Spikes, which is something Nihilego can run. So by simply grabbing Venusaur and putting it on my roster, I eliminate the huge threat of Toxic Spikes, really kind of dissuade my opponent from bringing them in the first place, and ultimately give myself a Pokemon that can resist fighting and fairy type moves that are aimed at Kyurem-B, so that was pretty cool there. Plus, I just love Venusaur. It's a really cool Pokemon. It's not as bulky as Shaymin, it's not as offensive as Shaymin, but it can do a couple things like knock off. It also gets Earthquake, which is kind of cool. And again, just having a poison type I thought was really beneficial. But the real big upgrade to the team, so I think that that's a downgrade, but I also feel like there's a lot of reasons as to why Venusaur is better on my team in some ways than Shaymin. But then the other piece of the puzzle here is the Zoroark upgrade, in my opinion. While I do lose Parting Shot, which is unfortunate, I gain Zoroark, which gives me a U-turner instead. Still has Memento, which is a really cool move, but the big thing is Illusion. And I can tell you, as someone who's played against a team with Kyurem-B and Zoroark, it is very scary. Those two together, incredibly devastating because you don't know what's what. I think my team really benefits from Zoroark for a number of reasons, but just being an offensive mixed Dark-type Pokemon is really, really scary. And I think with the huge offensive threats that I have, it can actually make a huge impact on this team. So like I mentioned, I do think that Alolan Persian to Zoroark was a pretty big upgrade. I do think that on paper, Shaymin and Venusaur is a bit of a downgrade, but because my team really needed the poison type and I hadn't used Shaymin yet, I really just see Venusaur having a lot more versatility moving forward on the team. So that was the decision I made. Hopefully you guys dig it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway, Drew is sitting at 2-1. He's doing pretty well this season. He's got a really good team, so let's talk about it. He's got a Latias, which is I think it got 6 kills in week 1. Latias in this week, I expect it to either come Scarf, maybe Specs, or Life Orb. Most likely offensive though. I don't necessarily expect a Calm Mindset because I feel like maybe he could bring Calm Mind, but not like stored power or anything because I do have a Zoroark. So we'll see what happens with that Latias there, but I think Scarf could be a likely bring. The Buzzwole is only really scary if it's Choice Banded. Believe it or not, Choice Banded Buzzwole is really scary. I could see him going with like an Electrium Z set or something like that, but generally Buzzwole is going to be pretty offensive. If he brings it, I don't expect like a bulk up set or anything. It would be definitely offensive. Gyarados, if it comes, would be a Z Crystal user if I had to guess. I think Gyarados has kind of a hard time breaking through my team, and it doesn't really have the best matchup. So I'm not anticipating necessarily Gyarados coming 100%. Nihilego 100% is coming. That thing is very difficult to switch into. I mentioned previously, I think Toxic Spikes would have been a really good strategy for Drew, but now that I have Venusaur, I don't necessarily think he goes that route, so I think it's a more offensive set, maybe a Life Orb, or if Latias isn't Scarfed, I can see that Nihilego being Scarfed. On my end, Scarf Tyrantrum kind of runs through, or I'm sorry, Kyurem kind of runs through Drew's team, so I could see him kind of doing a couple different things there with the Nihilego, but chances are it's Grass Knot, Sludge Wave, Power Gem, and Psychic or Psy Shock would be my best guess. Empoleon likely comes to this match as a defensive Pokemon with potentially Stealth Rocks. I could also see it being like Weakness Policy, Agility if he wants to get kind of creative, but it's most certainly going to have Flash Cannon and potentially a Wakanberry to bait out my Kyurem-B, or maybe a Shukaberry to bait out my my Lycanroc. So I think Empoleon is going to be definitely coming to this match, and it's going to have one of those roles there. Ambipom, if it comes, is likely like a Life Orb Technician Fake Out set, or maybe like a Last Resort set. I could also see kind of just offensive Ambipom, I think could be really good. It does get things like Seed Bomb. It does have a hard time breaking through Skarmory, but definitely something to note that Ambipom can be pretty effective in this match. Gourgeist, if it comes, it's definitely the biggest Gourgeist as a defensive way to kind of deal with things like Kyurem-Black. It does also kind of slow down Lycanroc and things of that sort, so I really think that Gourgeist is a viable pick. Houndour, or Houndoom rather, I don't anticipate coming at all, to be honest. I don't think it has any sort of a good matchup here. It's just a little too slow to be that effective, and I'm not really seeing much there, but it would be offensive, mostly like a nasty plot set. Stunfisk was a move that Drew made right actually before the week ended to do this battle, so I do feel like Stunfisk was a move that he made with my team in mind for sure. He previously didn't have a ground type, and I was gonna just Volt Switch all over his face, but he does have Stunfisk now, which is a tremendously good Pokemon to stop things like my Lycanroc and my Manectric, so those are two things to note. And then last but not least is the Audino, which Mega Audino is actually pretty problematic. I could see a Dazzling Gleam, Wish, Protect, Flamethrower set, maybe get Toxic in there somewhere, but that's typically what we'll see. So if I had to guess what his team is gonna be, it would be the Latios, the Buzzwole, the Nihilego, the Empoleon, the Stunfisk, and then a wild card for that last slot, whether it's the Audino, whether it's the Gourgeist, whether it's the Ambipom, but I'm expecting the Buzzwole, Latios, Nihilego, Empoleon, and Stunfisk. I just feel like those make a lot of sense, and because of those, I built my team really considering that in mind. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about our team and what we're bringing. I'm gonna kick things off here with Nightshade, our Florges. When I built this team, the first thing I saw was Florges was definitely a good bring. While he does have the Nihilego and the Empoleon, Florges is really good as a way to slow down the Lati. It's also really good against, things like Stunfisk. Can't really do much to it. I can switch into Audino. I'm actually gonna bring an offensive Calm Mindset this week. I'm fully defensive in terms of my spread, but with Calm Minds, I can actually beat the Nihilego. If I can get up 2 Calm Minds against something, I actually could probably just win the game if the Buzzwole's not banded, which is very, very cool, or it doesn't have a lot of physical attackers. This team is very specially oriented, but there's things that this can set up on. So Toxic is something I have to worry about, but Hidden Power Ground is there to hit the Empoleon and the Nihilego, so we can really do some damage there. And while Calm Minding Florges isn't really going to be what I think is the way to win this game, it could be a way to really dent the team and kind of catch them off guard and really force some interesting plays. So we're a really good switch into Lati, though. That's going to be our primary focus, and we're also a middle ground play on Buzzwole. If my opponent wants to lock into a fighting type move or just go for a fighting type move, you really got to consider Florges in that situation. Now our big wall breaker is going to be the Night King Kyurem-Black here, coming once again. This is an expert belt, mostly max attack, a little bit of special attack, pretty much max speed. This thing is designed to outspeed things like Gyarados and Buzzwole. I've got the Ice Beam, the Iron Head, and the Fusion Bolt on there with Substitute. And this thing forces some switches, and when you look at things like Gourgeist and Stunfisk and Empoleon and those things, those generally don't want to stay in against Kyurem, because I can do so much damage to them. So Substitute is I originally had Hidden Power Flying for Buzzwole, but we're gonna rock with the sub because I do think there could be opportunities to set up a sub. Things like Gourgeist, if it doesn't have Foul Play, doesn't even break my sub. Stunfisk has to Earth Power, and it doesn't want to take an Ice move because that could really be detrimental to it. So those are some things to kind of keep in mind there. But ultimately, Ice Beam does a ton of damage to Stunfisk. I have it set up so I can 2-shot 75% of the time if he's max special defense with lefties. I've also got Fusion Bolt on there, which absolutely obliterates Empoleon. Iron Head also looking good for things like Nihilego and Audino. I can 2-shot the Audino, and I believe just 1-shot the Nihilego. Obviously, like an Assault Vest Buzzwole would be kind of annoying. I can't actually do much there, but otherwise this Kyurem should be able to put in some serious work, and is most likely going to be my lead going into this matchup, depending on what my opponent has on Team Preview. The next Pokemon is going to be our Lycanroc Dusk form. We've been using Lycanroc really well. Last week it put in a ton of work, and I think this week it is going to be kind of our primary way to try to win this game. Chip things down, get him in a range for Lycanroc, and then ultimately come up with the W. Sucker Punch after rocks one-shots Latias, unless it's very bulky. Obviously, we do about 50% to Nihilego. We can Drill Run and do 75 to the Empoleon. One thing we have to be very mindful of is that Stunfisk does carry static. It could static us. Might not be the end of the world though, because we are rocking 2 priorities: Sucker Punch for Lati, Excel Rock for everything else pretty much. Sucker Punch does do more damage in many situations, but this is also one of my ways so I don't lose to Dragon Dancing Gyarados. Also, I can hit that Ambipom pretty well. And Iron Head is there for the Audino, because Audino can be really problematic if it's Wish Protect. It can be difficult to knock out, so we're gonna rock with that. And I think this set is definitely primed to put in some serious work. I do need to weaken the Stunfisk a little bit, and I need to get some chip damage on a couple things. And I really can't do much to Buzzwole, so those are some things there. But I think Buzzwole is going to get pressured pretty hard early game, just because I have a lot of things that kind of switch into Buzzwole. And again, I think Buzzwole's real effectiveness in this match is if it's choice banded. Otherwise, it doesn't really do a ton. To my next Pokemon, which is Skarmory. Skarmory is full physically defensive this week, just max defense. When I looked at this team, I wasn't actually going to bring Skarmory at first because I'm like, oh, it's a very specially offensive team. you know, aside from Gyarados, which again I don't really think is coming, and Ambipom, which I don't consider to be a huge threat. I'm like, it's just Buzzwole, and Skarmory just beats Buzzwole anyway. But then I realized in practice that offensive Buzzwole is very scary, and Last Resort or just super offensive Ambipom is even scarier, believe it or not. So I gotta bring Skarmory. I've got the Rocky Helmet there. I talked about the chip damage I need on Lycanroc to get some KOs. So having that Rocky Helmet actually helps us there. 2 Rocky Helmet hits does put the Gyarados in Accelerock range. That Rocky Helmet could be really big on that Buzzwole, again, as I'm trying to chip it down. We've got the Brave Bird, we got the Toxic, we got the Stealth Rocks, pretty standard stuff there. Roost to keep longevity. Obviously, we get Toxic some things that's pretty nice, especially his dedicated switch-ins are gonna be like the, you know, you bring in the Gourgeist to the Stunfisk on this thing, you know what I mean? So getting that Toxic off could be really good. And again, an offensive Laddie locked in a Psyshock isn't going to do anything to Skarmory, so that's another kind of thought process there, because I think Laddie would carry Psyshock for Florges. That way it doesn't lose to the Calm Mind variant. Next thing we're going to be bringing is our Gastrodon. Actually, just kidding, it's our Venusaur. Venusaur is next, and Asparagus making its debut, the newest member of the team. Again, I mentioned I kind of got this thing specifically not just for this matchup, but for upcoming matchups for this season. And I really feel like I didn't want to have Toxic Spikes be such a problem to my team, because, like, look at my team. Like, yeah, I have Defoggers, but Toxic Spikes is really bad for things like Kyurem. So anyway, Asparagus is coming. It's got Giga Drain, Earthquake, Leech Seed, Sludge Bomb with the Sassy. We're very, very bulky. Earthquake is beautiful, though, because it does one-shot Nihilego. Sludge Bomb's really good for things like Buzzwole. Gives me another switch into Buzzwole. The one thing that really kind of beats Asparagus, in my opinion, is the Laddie. So that's where Leech Seed's really nice. We can kind of get some health back there. And you see Stunfisk, Dino. Empoleon really doesn't do a ton to us. Nihilego obviously can Psychic or Psyshock, but we one-shot it with Earthquake. You can see how Venusaur is really good in this matchup. So, again, it does resist Buzzwole's attacks, well, at least its fighting type moves, its Electric type moves, things like that. And I just feel like Venusaur really is another good glue piece defensively to this team, and it fits into kind of my playstyle of, like, more bulky type Pokemon. And then last but not least is going to be Gastrodon, which I kind of teased already. But this is a mixed defensive Gastrodon, but leaning towards the special side. We're bringing Rindoberry again, big surprise. Toxic Skull to recover Toxic. Again, this thing is designed to deal with the, you know, primarily, actually it does a couple things. One, it can kind of slow down the Laddie, but its main job is you kind of dissuade the Gyarados from water attacks. You kind of check the Nihilego again, such a big threat. Beats Empoleon incredibly well. It beats the Stunfisk. It shuts that thing down a million times over. It can Toxic the Audino. It can beat the Houndoom. And obviously, you know, it can live a hit from Ambipom and do some damage back. So I have a lot of defense on this team, right? We've got the Skarm, the Venusaur, the Gastro, and the Florges, a very defensive team this week, as opposed to the more offensive stuff. I left a couple things off the roster. Passimian I thought was okay. Probably had to be Choice Scarf. Didn't think it was going to be good enough, especially with static on the Stunfisk. Mega Manectric would have come, but again, that Stunfisk, what I found was Mega Manectric in this matchup, it lost me so much momentum, because I'd have it on the field, it threatens things out, but Stunfisk just comes in for free every time, and I just didn't want to have that anymore, whereas the rest of my team can handle Stunfisk much better now. So while I do lose that pressure that Manectric can put on my opponent, and I lose that speed that it brings, I think I just don't lose the momentum for my practice games. Zoroark I thought actually had a pretty good matchup as well. I'd have to run like Sludge Bomb though, because Audino is so bulky, but Zoroark definitely was something to consider. I think Drew is going to really have to consider Zoroark in preparation. And then I didn't bring Talonflame. Talonflame has another decent matchup, but again, Stunfisk. I just know that Stunfisk has to come. It's got to be defensive. It's probably going to be physically defensive, I had to guess, which could be a good thing for my Kyurem. You know, it's probably just mixed defensive. Like, I just feel like Stealth Rock's Earth Power, Discharge, like Volt Switch or Thunder Wave or Toxic or whatever is so good on Stunfisk against me. So I like really had to keep that in mind. If he doesn't bring Stunfisk, I'm gonna be blown away, to be honest. So that's why I didn't bring Passimian, Manectric, Talonflame, Zoroark. So those are the ones that got left out. But got some new members of the team, man. I'm excited for this one. I think we actually have a really good shot to pick up a W here. It's going to be a tough one, though. My practice battles went well, but I'm still a little nervous about this team because, again, things like Buzzwole, Laddie, they're very difficult Pokemon to switch into, and they can do a lot of different things. And I have to keep that Nihilego at bay, but I definitely feel like I have the tools to do it. If we can get some good breaking in early with Kyurem, kind of weaken some of the things, give Lycanroc an opportunity late game to clean, that's going to be clutch. I think we have a really good defensive core this week. I think Calm Mind Florges, while it didn't do a ton in practice matches, I think Calm Mind Florges could be really, really good good this week. I do genuinely feel like it could be a really good Mon in the right situation, especially if he brings like a choice scarf or some sort of locked in laddie. I can really just start setting up Calm Minds, and once I get 2 Calm Minds up, then Nihilego is no longer an answer. And again, things like Empoleon aren't really an answer. So aside from Toxic, we can do a lot of damage there. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. So that's gonna be that, guys. Thank you so much for watching this team build. The match will go up tomorrow. Hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and let me know your thoughts on the changes to the team. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.